Wonderful, wonderful. And in today's TonyTalks2, I'm privileged to interview none other than Debbie G. She is an entrepreneur as well as obviously a Viva team leader, really high up in the business. And also she's the owner of the Tortoise Hotel. Debbie, hello and welcome to the TonyTalks2 show. Woo, thank you. Yes, give her a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, in this session, we're just going to open up some questions. I'm going to ask some questions of you, just not necessarily business related, but just to let our audience and our listeners know who the real Debbie G is. And there will be some questions that maybe make you sweat, but if you really, really feel uncomfortable, obviously you don't have to answer them, but hopefully, hopefully these will be fine and you'll be great in answering these. Now, I'm going to ask first off, I always ask this of any guests that come on this interview, is where were you actually born and are you willing to say how old you are?
I'm actually proud of how old I am. I'm 54 years old.
Oh, wow.
I celebrate. Is it that old then?
No, you look fantastic. Well done.
So I'm 54. I was actually born in Chiswick near London, and I moved to, well, I grew up in Wraysbury. And
Wraysbury, where's that? Is that in the same area?
Staines, which is just outside London. It was a little tiny village actually on an island. Well, it's just because it had a bridge on and a bridge off, but it was a really nice place. And then I moved to Maidenhead, and this is where I've been since I was 17.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wonderful. So have you lived anywhere else or just Maidenhead?
Yes, I lived in Chiswick. Then I actually moved to Isleworth when I was young. Then I lived in Wraysbury, grew up mostly in Wraysbury, then moved to Weybridge, and then Maidenhead. So I've lived in quite a few houses in Maidenhead.
Right. So it's within that area. It's not like you've gone up to Scotland or Wales or daft like that. So you're within the London sort of south-ish, South London area, aren't you, really, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. If you had to give a childhood experience that shaped you or a favourite one, what would that be?
Well, those are two very different questions.
Answer which one you choose.
Childhood experience that I hated was school.
Oh, right. Okay.
School and I did not get on at all.
Why is that? Why is that in particular?
Well, I didn't realise I was dyslexic.
Oh, you're dyslexic.
I was 40 that I was dyslexic.
Wow.
I know. And I went many, many, many years not reading and not telling anybody. Nobody spotted it. And I remember probably, I think it was about 9.5, believe it or not. And the teacher said, come on, Deborah, stand up and read this excerpt out the one of these books. And I just stood there and I thought, all this time, I have never told anybody I couldn't read a thing.
Wow.
So I hated it because what happens is you become very good at hiding when you can't read. So basically what I would do is I'd make sure I'd sit next to the person who was the most cleverest in the room, sit there and say, what did they just say? What do I have to do? What have I got to do? And I used to learn that way. And so for years and years and years, they had no idea I couldn't read. And I have to be honest, I struggled seriously with spelling as well. So, you know, when somebody writes an essay, I would write an essay in my language. I had my own font as well. It was that bad. And every word had red circles around it. But in the end, they got used to it, but they still didn't realise it was dyslexia.
So nobody as you were growing up picked up on it or questioned it or?
No.
Wow.
Not at all.
That's incredible.
I would sit at the back of the class deliberately and I never took anything in. I used to just watch everybody else. But I mean, I'm 54. I'm so pleased that doesn't happen today. But I do think if I was taught differently, I probably would have been dangerous.
So, okay. I mean, excuse my ignorance on dyslexia. I mean, I know roughly what it is, but I don't know the actual symptoms of what you experience. I mean, do you want to elaborate a bit more on what do you see when you look at a written page then? What happens?
Okay, well, everybody's different, but with me, I would look at words and they mean nothing. I have to form pictures. So the word the, I can't, well, I couldn't, I've taught myself since, but how can you create a picture for the word the? You can't, can you? Whereas the word cat, in your head, you can create a picture. So you visualize a cat and then you recognize the word cat, because I just go by literally how the words are formed, and then you memorize it. So every time I read anything, pictures are conjured up. It's like a movie the whole time. So it takes a lot longer to read. And also sometimes I'll be reading, say if somebody's done block text, I'll read it and then lose my place and think, what have I just read? Yet it's really interesting. So what you'll often find, if I've got to write block text, I will put it in loads and loads of different paragraphs. And that's because it's much easier for everybody to read, whether you can read fast or not. It seems just much easier. And obviously a certain type of font helps as well.
Yeah, I was just about to ask that. Is the font a factor in all this?
Definitely. And this is why when you're advertising your business, for example, you've got to be very careful of the font that you do use, because believe it or not, a lot of the population have some form of reading difficulty. And you don't know it, but sometimes you'll be looking at a sheet of paper and a word might move and you just think, oh, well, that's how it is. So you make it easy for somebody to read your advert. And the way to do that is to keep it short and simple, use the right font, right colors as well. And, you know, you can actually help your advertising. If you do it well, you can get a good response from it.
Wow. So you've now obviously taken that issue, you've understood it in business terms, which is affecting all of us because we're all business owners as well. So that advice is really useful because we can take that away with us and apply it too. So wow. So you've taken your, I don't know, do you class it as a disability? Do you think it's a disability in your eyes?
Believe it or not, I call it a gift, and purely because I see things completely different to other people. I'm a good problem solver. So when somebody's looking at, say, for example, my other half, David, very intelligent guy, he'll be looking at something and he'll be reading it and he'll be looking at it with his mind. Straight away, I can see something completely different. So we are absolute opposites.
Wow.
And, you know, it works because in business, you have to think outside the box, and being dyslexic, that really does help.
That's fantastic. The fact you've taken that as an advantage and helped it propel you. You haven't dwelt on it and went, poor, you know, poor me. You've actually used it as an advantage. So that's a valuable lesson for people listening here today, that you may think that something is perhaps hindering you when in reality you can use it to your advantage, which you've done eloquently. So well done. I applaud you for that. If okay, I'm going to jump about here. I've got a number of questions. So if going there, did you have a career as such? You said that you struggled at school. Did you have a career in early doors or not after leaving school? Yeah.
I went to college because I really desperately wanted to be a midwife, and I went to college for a year.
Oh, okay.
And they asked me to leave after a year. They said, "A class clown, why did you behave like that?" And to be honest with you, it was boredom.
Right.
And I decided that obviously that was what I needed to do. I needed to get into work. So I did. I went to work at a hospital for special needs children, and became a house parent there, and worked on a challenging behaviour unit, which was the best experience of my life, to be honest.
Oh, wow. So you actually worked with special needs children for a time?
Yes,
while you were doing this?
5 years.
Oh, wow.
And then in the end, with all the skills that I picked up with them, what I did is I went to work in a special needs school, and I used to teach children communication skills because I had a natural gift for communicating with people that couldn't speak and finding a way for them to communicate with the outside world. And it was one of the best jobs I've ever had. Loved it. Loved every minute.
So I take it you obviously left it. Why did you leave it in the end then? If it was a job that you enjoyed?
because I was introduced to Clean Easy, which is a network marketing company. And I was actually working alongside, I was doing the job as well. And I never thought I would ever change my career because I loved it so much. Most people were teachers that did my job. And I had no qualifications at all to my name. And I was given the job because of how I could communicate with people.
You had something that the others didn't have. You had a skill.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And
So you mentioned there Clean Easy, and that then influenced you to actually move away from the job you loved. It seems.
Yeah.
How do you quantify that?
Well, when I first started Clean Easy, I was on a mission just to earn money. And I was just delivering catalogues, and I saw straight away within the first 4 weeks of business how much money I could earn. I mean, I sold £1,000 a week straight away, just literally by delivering catalogues. I delivered a lot of catalogues, you know, it's like 200 3 times a week straight away, but I could see the potential in it. But I was only interested in retailing alongside my career.
Right.
Then I went to a meeting, and this is where I met other people that were talking about how they were earning £2,000 and £3,000 a month, ordinary people. Now, they actually spoke my language because they were saying, look, I've got no qualifications whatsoever, and look, I can earn this. Now, to me, to earn that sort of income when you've got no qualifications whatsoever, I thought there's got to be a little bit more to it. So I stayed behind. I spoke to, it was Mike Bibby at the time, and he was just saying, you know, he said, I hated school as well, got no qualifications. And, you know, if you're determined and you put your mind to it, you can do it. I must admit, I did think to myself, do I, don't I? And on the drive home, I actually made the decision that network marketing was going to be my career.
Wow.
And I gave up my job.
So it was literally like a switch that you thought, right, that's it, I'm going to do it. So you didn't, I know you said you were putting catalogs out and getting some success from it, but didn't you think you could run the two together because you had passion in the job, but this could run alongside it? Or do you felt the only way to make the Clean Easy business work was to actually give up the working with the children?
Well, at the time I was a single mum, and my mortgage, I remember, was £764 a month. My income from Clean Easy was £750 a month straight away. So that's quite a significant income. Then I had my job on top. And I thought, well, there is no way that I could run my Clean Easy business and my job at the same time and build it.
Right.
Something had to go. And in 4 weeks, I had to turn it all around completely. And I'm not joking when I say I had a phenomenal work ethic, but I ran it like a military operation. Every single minute of my day was planned because I had to. I could not fail, because if I failed, my daughter and I would have been on the streets, and that would have been it. And I could not have that happen.
So basically you had no bridge to return behind you, but the bridge was burnt. You had to go forward.
I had to do it. I had to do it. Obviously what I did is I made sure I had everything there ready for me to do it. So I'd been learning, I found out, I spoke to so many people how they did it, and then found everything that they were saying. You know, a lot of people were saying, you've just got to put your all into it. So every hour I put in, it was a full-time hour. It wasn't a part-time, oh, let me go off on social media. There was none of that. Okay. I literally had to just do it.
And did it come to fruition?
Well, in 9 sales periods, which is their 4 weeks of sales period, the same as this business, I turned my income from £780 odd to 3,600.
Wow.
Without putting a catalogue out.
Wow.
That was recruiting. So in 9 sales periods, once I made that decision, that was it. And I turned it all around completely. Now, don't get me wrong, obviously retail was really, really important, but I had to make sure that I got that team built really fast. And I had to obviously retail at the same time through the first sort of 6, 7 periods of that as well.
Sure.
But when I earned the 3,600, that was when I had not put one catalogue out.
Wow. That was purely for passing on your knowledge to others and helping them build their teams. Yes.
And that was full time. I would easily get up at 6 in the morning, because when I first started, I was getting up at 6, putting the catalogues through the door with my daughter, and then she was dropped off at school. And then what I did is I would get up really early in the morning, speak to the team. I wouldn't go to bed sometimes till like 2 and 3, because I was talking to the team on the phone, helping them, inducting them. Everybody heard from me every single day. It's not like you can have Zoom.
Wasn't there. Yeah,
No,
it wasn't, was it?
It was all telephones, and I was so determined, but it set me up for life.
Wow, that's inspirational. So, I mean, obviously now we've transitioned. We're into this is another company now, Viva MK. But you also run, which I'm really fascinated about, is the Tortoise Hotel. How did that come about?
Again, a passion. I've always had. Well, I had a tortoise when I was 5. My dad was a policeman. He came home, and he said, "Debbie, look what I've just found on the streets."
He literally found it on the street.
Yes, tortoises run, believe it or not, when it's hot. They escape from anywhere when it's hot. So that's why on Facebook you'll always see, "Oh, my tortoises escape when it's really, really hot," because they will get out of anywhere. There are no boundaries for a tortoise. So he found it running around the street, and he brought it home, and I kept it. And from then on, that was it. I was hooked on tortoises.
When did you actually develop this idea of an actual tortoise hotel?
Well, what happened, I'd had my tortoises, and I was building enclosures so that they couldn't get out. And a friend of mine said, "Oh, you've got a tortoise, would you look after mine?" And I said, "Well, they're not that easy to look after. You know, they need their own separate space." And, "Oh, no, put it in with yours." I said, "No, you can't do that." Because I'd actually learned a lot about tortoises over the years, and learned that you do not keep tortoises together unless
Really?
they are part of, you know, you've quarantined them and so on, because they can carry disease and spread.
Oh, right. It's not that they fight or anything like that.
Yeah, two males fight, so you would never put 2 males together, because they'll fight to their death.
Oh, goodness me.
1 male per 6 females. Lucky male.
Oh, okay.
So you don't put a male and a female together, because he will constantly harass her. That's all they do, is eat and mate. So so basically,
so you've got to actually up the game and put a few more females in with the males.
That's right. So
okay.
What happened was, people were actually saying to me, you know, "Oh, I don't understand why this is happening," and so on. So I was explaining it all. Then when I had a look on Facebook, in a lot of the groups, people were keeping them in very, very small enclosures, tiny enclosures, in fact.
So what's the optimum sort of space then? Oh, well, minimum space. I suppose optimum could be huge, but
I would say 6 foot by 3 foot. And
right, for a tortoise.
Yeah,
wow.
Minimum, absolute minimum. But the problem was, everybody was buying all these ones online, 2 foot by 1 foot, and saying, "Why is my tortoise walking round in a circle?" Well, you know, a tortoise doesn't have a boundary. So basically, you could put fencing up, and if it can see through that fence, a little tiny hole, it will still keep trying to get through it.
Oh, right.
And that's the way they are.
So let me try and picture this in my head. Obviously, can't see it here, but so you've got segregated areas for the tortoises that stay with you.
Yeah.
And so these barriers that you've erected, they're not see-through. Otherwise, a tortoise will want to get out.
That's right. And nobody designs a good tortoise enclosure. And yet there are hundreds and hundreds of people. Honestly, you might say, "Well, I don't know anybody with one." But you ask somebody and they say, "Oh, yeah, I've got a tortoise and it lives in the garden." So what I decided to do was find a manufacturer that would make me a bespoke tortoise table. Now, we're the only people in the world that sell these tortoise tables. We've had manufactured. It took 9 months to actually get them made. And I get calls from all over the world for these tortoise tables.
Wow.
So if it wasn't for the manufacturer causing me more problems than anything else, these would be absolutely shipped every single place in the world.
Wow. And when you say a tortoise table, what is that? Sorry, I'm not.
Some people try to put tortoises in vivariums, which are like tanks for turtles. A turtle and a tortoise are very different. A turtle in America means a tortoise as well.
Oh, right.
But in the
That's
UK,
confusing.
a turtle is water-based and a tortoise is land-based.
Hmm.
So they put tortoises in vivariums and then put a heat lamp so that they're almost baking.
Oh.
Whereas they need to be in basically very similar to a planter, an outdoor planter, where
Oh, I see.
it's just totally exposed to the sunlight.
But you said that if they get hot, they scurry away for shade, I take it.
Sometimes, but they bask in it. They absorb
Okay.
the UVA, UVB from the sun. So they're out in the mornings basking. It's lovely to watch them, actually. They're fascinating.
Okay. Now, obviously, I mean, sorry, we're dwelling on this one subject, but it's quite fascinating, really. I don't know
Everybody's
if
bored now.
our listeners here are probably thinking, oh, what's about tortoises? But it's. I mean, they vary in sizes. I mean, you've got little ones and big ones, I assume. I mean, how big are the biggest ones you do have?
The biggest ones I've got are probably dinner plate size. The larger ones, you can get a sulcata tortoise. You do have to be careful with them because a tortoise is a very determined creature and nothing stops them. They're unstoppable. So they're a great mascot for this business because they are completely unstoppable.
Wow.
If you have a tortoise going one way, you cannot turn it round and get it to go another way. It goes the way it wants to go regardless. So the bigger the tortoise, the harder it is to actually maneuver it. And I've actually had tortoises literally that size lifting reinforced paving slabs and walking with them on their back. Honestly, because they decided they wanted to go under it and just lift it up.
Wow,
they are so determined.
That is incredible. Okay, along the same theme, have you got any other funny stories regarding experiences at the Tortoise Hotel? I know you've said they've gone under the slabs, but anything else that you could recount?
There are so many. I mean, they're all, believe it or not, they have different personalities as well. But I had BBC Radio Berkshire wanting to come around and interview me because they're just saying, this is such a niche business. Yes, and everybody was talking about it. But the thing was, I couldn't because they are very valuable pets. And the second anybody knows that I've got them here, and I have to be very careful, we've got cameras everywhere, they just come in and take them. Really? So of course I couldn't have that happen. So I had to turn them down.
You couldn't do an interview without them knowing where you lived?
Yeah, I could. I mean, it's very difficult because they know I'm in Berkshire. Right. It just means my security has to be really tight. I mean, we've upped the security anyway because of it. But also breakfast TV,
Gosh, it's quite good that you've had the
person to be interviewed like that. But yes, there are loads of stories, loads. And,
yeah. Okay. Do you have? I mean, this is obviously faring quite well, I see. And if someone comes to you and says, sorry, this final question on this, someone comes to you and says, will you look after my tortoise? I mean, is it hotel rates? I mean, what do you must have some sort of, if someone's going away on a holiday, they want their tortoise looked after by you. Do you have a website with the rates on, or how does it work? How do you work it?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I have to turn people away all the time. And while I was on here, I've just turned 3 people away.
Wow.
And one of them had 6 tortoises and I had to turn them away just because I don't have the enough enclosures and mine run around all over. I'd started this as a hobby. I really did not want to do this as a business. But with the manufacturing of the Tortoise Table, now that takes care of itself.
Yeah.
So honestly, looking after the tortoises is sort of a bit of a bind in a way. But I feel I have to do it because there's nobody out there that knows how to look after them properly. And like I said, we're the only one in the world that is specific for tortoises. And we do what we do with biosecurity and making sure that they're separate. So It is really cheap rate. It's only £9 a day for them to stay. But obviously, you know, when somebody's got one, they've usually got another one. So there's usually two staying. So it works out quite well in the end.
Wonderful. Wow, that's sorry, we spent a lot of time on that particular subject.
Sorry, everybody.
But no, it was really, really good. I found it really interesting. Okay, let's move on to a slightly different subject. I'd like to know a little bit more about you as a person. I mean, things I've always wanted to ask is, do you have any bad habits that you're willing to admit to?
Oh my God, the list is endless. Oh, the list is endless. I'd say my bad habit is I drive every car like I stole it.
Oh. So following on from that, have you been caught?
Never. Touch wood.
Okay, no, so you're a fast driver. So do you get frustrated with people that are in front of you then? Do you moan? Are you one of these aggressive drivers?
No, I wouldn't say I was aggressive, but you know, you can hear me pull off the drive and it's like, oh, why did I do that? And then somebody sitting in the passenger seat is, and I go, are you all right? They go, yeah, sorry, I thought I was driving on my own. I think what it is I just, I'm a confident driver, so I don't think about it. And
you're a secret boy racer, perhaps?
Oh, I'd love to. I love cars, you see, and I think that's what it is. I'm a real tomboy like that. I absolutely love cars. Brilliant. Classics as well.
Okay, so let's move on. Have you had any, okay, it may be along the same theme of driving, who knows, but have you had any scary near misses, not just in driving, but life in general? But because you're a speedster, maybe it could be related to driving.
Never driving, thank goodness.
Okay, that's good.
I've had quite a few near-death experiences.
Oh.
One couple through illness. I went to Romania and nearly died out there and was in a coma in the hospital room. Do
you want to elaborate, or what happened, or can you not? Is it a bit personal?
All of us in the hotel had picked up a bug. Not quite sure, there was a name for it and I can't remember what it was, but one guy died from it.
No.
Me and this other gentleman was too ill to be flown back.
Wow.
They were going to fly us back, and we were literally in hotel rooms because the medical was 30 years out of date. And I remember my parents carrying me into this hospital. It only had 3 beds. You walk straight in. There was 3 beds. One lady was lying there naked on this bed, and another one, the other side, was hanging off the bed, looked dead. And my mum was a nurse anyway, and she said, this is terrible. So anyway, I remember lying there, and all I remember then is them coming up to me with this big metal syringe, huge, great big thing, came up to me and got the wrong person and went and jabbed it in the woman next to me. They picked me up and we went. So it was awful. That was a horrendous experience.
Wow. But how old were you then?
15.
15. Goodness me.
But I did have one not good. Last year, so
yeah. Okay. If you had some advice that you could give people about business or starting a business, what would it be?
Gosh. Follow your passion, because if you're passionate and really passionate about something, you can make a business from it. Seriously, doesn't matter what it is. You can make a business from it. I was passionate about networking because I didn't realize that it was just something that felt I could do. And I felt at the time I was good at it. And so I went for it. So I think if you're passionate about something, build it into a business, make a business and just go for it.
Go for it. Brilliant. Brilliant. I love that advice. Okay, you've answered a couple of my other questions anyway. Yeah, here's a question. It's a different one. without naming names, obviously you've been going through this journey through different businesses, and in particular the one you already mentioned. Give me an example of somebody either inside your business or you met along the way who, but don't name names, but drove you insane.
Oh,
Say why they drove you insane.
oh, the list is endless. Oh gosh.
Who's driven you to drink almost, unless you do that already? But it's
In
some
my
trait.
last business, I think.
Okay.
There was somebody that basically I taught social media and their team. I taught them all social media, and I taught them, they always used to do it sort of more undercover. So this is before social media took off, because I'd been using it the second it was launched. I'd always used it with my team, and they realized I was doing that. So they got me in to teach their team. And then caused me loads of problems. And basically said I didn't have a clue what I was talking about yet. I'd even set up Facebook groups for them. They were quite somebody quite significant in the business, but then caused no end of problems, and then ruined social media for everybody in that business.
Oh.
Because they just taught completely the wrong things to do. And then it jeopardized everybody's businesses. And a lot of people still today can't use Facebook or social media in a social way because they've got tags on their accounts.
Oh, wow. Based on what happened all those years ago. Oh, dear.
Because once you get a tag on your account, then you've got it for life. You rarely pay to take it off.
Okay. There is a question, another question along a similar line, actually. What is something you hate when other people do it? Maybe it's something you do yourself, but you hate it if other people do it.
Gosh.
You do well so far answering these, so I applaud you.
What do I hate? Probably what I don't like is when people don't realise, well, it's not that I don't like it, when people don't realise they're talented in something and they don't see it. And you know, sometimes people, or
so
even
you see it way before they do, and they just don't realise.
They just don't realise how talented they are. And then it's frustrating to watch.
Yeah, but isn't that a trait with a lot of people anyway? Because they don't realise how good they are, because they're in their own head.
Yeah, absolutely. It's usually other people that recognise it first anyway. But yeah.
It's accepting it, I suppose. That is a challenge. Yes, I agree. Okay, question for you. What has been your biggest fear whilst you've been going through your journey, manoeuvring from all these different businesses? What's a fear that really affected you and you think, oh, you know, that can stop you in your tracks, but you haven't let it?
Right. It has to be my driver for building my business initially. And the driver was I was made homeless and I had a young daughter. And I had to walk away from the marital home, even though it was my home as well. So I'd lost my home. So we were both homeless. And when I was building my business, the desire I had to pay off my mortgage was insane, absolutely insane. That was my driver. So that fear drove me in my business all the time, because I never, ever wanted to lose my home, never. And of course, when I was 40, I managed to pay off my mortgage, which means I live mortgage free, which is amazing.
So you use the fear actually in a positive way instead of a debilitating way that stops you in your tracks. You actually used it positively. You were afraid of it, sure.
Yeah,
but it was the driver.
Yeah. And I didn't want anybody to ever be in a position to take my home away. I didn't want a mortgage lender to take my home away. I didn't want a partner to, or anyone. That's it. My name was going to go on there, and that's where it is.
Oh, wow, that's brilliant. Right, we're mindful of the time here, so I've got a couple more simple ones for you. Who is your worst enemy? in terms of what is something that you, as you're building your business, as you're doing your successes, what's your worst enemy in terms of your traits? Have you got any saboteurs that you notice about yourself?
I think everybody doubts themselves. I mean, I doubt myself quite a lot. Should I do that? Why hasn't anybody recognised that? You know, and I sit there and, because like I said, I think differently to other people sometimes. And I'm thinking, surely people can see that, or maybe I'm wrong. And I'm thinking, I doubt myself, and I don't always go with my instinct. I should go with my instinct a lot more.
So that's your enemy, basically. It's pulling you back when in fact it could be something driving you forward.
Nobody else is doing it. Nobody else has thought of it. And because it is so different, I hold myself back because I think, well, no, but why hasn't somebody else thought of this? You know, even over the tortoise tables, why didn't somebody think about making it plastic, making it that size? And I was beating myself up thinking, oh, no, I can't do that. You know, I've got no qualifications. I've got no money. I've got none of this. You know, I was just holding myself back, yet it's very successful.
You were fighting yourself in your head when in fact, if you'd gone with your gut.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's a challenge, I suppose, a lot of people have, which is a shame.
It's been
okay. Let's get to the end here. I've got one for you. We'll end with. If there was a takeaway you could leave the audience here with.
Chinese.
Not that sort of takeaway. What words of wisdom or advice that you would want to leave them with? What would that be?
Treat everybody how you want to be treated. Everyone.
Okay.
I can honestly say that it doesn't matter. You should treat everybody with respect if you want to be treated respectfully.
Wonderful, wonderful. Debbie, that was superb. I've got some quick fire ones for you, and I just want to know what you have to answer. Don't think. These are really, really quick. I just want you to just shout out what comes into mind. There's only 2. Very simple. Out of 2. Red wine, white wine. Quick, don't think. Red. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Plain food, spicy food?
Spicy.
Beach holiday or skiing holiday?
Skiing.
Morning person or night person?
Morning.
KFC or McDonald's?
McDonald's.
Tidy or messy person?
Whoa. It depends whether you're looking in here. Messy in here, but desperately a tidy person wanting to crawl out as well. Bit of both.
Okay, wonderful. And the final one, is there more success on the horizon, or is it time to put your feet up?
I have not stopped yet.
Wonderful. Debbie, fabulous interview. Thank you for coming on the TonyTalks2 show. Can you everybody unmute and give Debbie a rapturous round of applause? Thank you, Debbie, for appearing on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, I will stop the recording. Thank you, Debbie.